Hi, my name is Taylor Gall, and I teach 7th and 8th grade language arts, but I'm here to talk to you about 8th grade language arts. I am in room 209 in the classic building, and you can see my email up here on the screen if you ever need to reach out. A little bit about me. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally. I went to Marquette University. Big Packers fan as well, but now I live in West Seattle with my husband and my dog, Sunny, who you can see pictured here. I love learning new things, and I try to learn a new skill or hobby every year. So I have been really successful at some, and I've been not very successful at others. So in the last few years, for instance, I took up running. I ran my first half marathon last year. And I also learned how to sew this summer. Another new thing that I learned was how to do grad school. So I also do hold a master's of education from the University of Illinois. And I also have my librarian degree as well. I love to travel. I love to hike. I like to bike. I like to kayak. And I love connecting with kids about those things. I'm also from a family of teachers. My mom just retired from teaching first grade and is now in her retirement a paraeducator in a K-3 classroom. And I also have lots of aunts and other family members who are teachers. This is my 6th year at IMS, but my 9th year of teaching overall. And I've always taught middle school because I love it. Quick classroom procedures. We have our no phone rule at IMS this year, and I have to tell you, it's totally changed the game. I feel that I can connect with students on a deeper level. I feel that they are much more engaged in the content that we're giving to them. And I think that it's really just helping them dive deeper and be able to take their time rather than rushing through everything. So I really appreciate the no phone rule. Of course, it applies to my classroom. Students can have headphones if they prefer to listen to music during work time, that's fine, but they need to be plug-in headphones only. They cannot be like earbuds. I have a class set of those as well if they need them. iPads are, of course, only used for class activities. I have a 2-strike rule, so I usually give them a silent warning or a quick quiet warning if they are misusing their iPads. And then second time, then we have to have a conversation about putting the iPad away for the rest of class. I do always have a paper option for students who are too distracted by iPads. iPads should be charged. However, if it's the end of the day and they need to plug it in, I do have chargers as well. Books. Students should always have a free reading book on them. This can be a physical book from the library. We will spend time in our library so that they learn how they can check out books on their own. But they can also use their iPads for Libby. They can also use audiobooks, and they can also use an e-reader such as a Kindle. They're expected to have a free reading book every day for class. This is so that if they finish anything early, then they can dive into reading. We are also going to have free reading goals this year, which I will get more into later. Food is totally fine. They're growing kids. They should be eating snacks if they need to. I just ask that they are allergen free. Of course, no nuts, no eggs or soy. And I also ask that students avoid dairy products as well. Water is also great. If students have water bottles, I encourage them to fill them up before class so that they do not need to leave class in order to do that. Late and redo work is, of course, allowed. We'll get more into my policies on that a little bit later in the presentation. However, an 8th grade skill that we are really working hard on is getting our work in on time. Something that is important for students to understand is that the homework that I give is not flippant. I do not randomly give them worksheets. Whatever I am giving them as homework is either wrapping up from the end of that class period, or it is in order to prepare for the next day's work. So it's important that students are learning how to come prepared to class. Types of assignments that you will see on Schoology are going to fall into one of two categories. The first is practice. Practice does not necessarily mean that it is not graded, although some practice is not graded. For instance, if we are doing an activity to show their understanding during class, that can often just be information for me so that I understand what I need to be teaching in the coming days. But practice can be used as evidence in our grade book. It might receive feedback from me. Feedback can be written in the document. It can be written in the comments on Schoology, or feedback also sometimes comes in the form of class discussion and classwork. Students will have an understanding of what that feedback looks like for different assignments in our class time together. In addition, if it is going to be graded, I always attach the rubric there so that students can take a look at what the qualifications for each level are. Summative assessments are those final assessments that come at the end of a unit when we have done lots of practice, when we've gotten lots of feedback, so that when they are doing this final project or this final paper or activity or presentation, they have an understanding of why they are receiving a specific grade, and they have an understanding of what they need to do in order to reach the grade that they desire. And that is what they see at the end of the trimester in things like cumulative. Free reading is very important to me, and it's going to be very important this year. So, students are going to be expected to read multiple books on their own throughout the trimester. They will have access to Libby, they will have access to student recommendations, they will have access to the library. But this is one of the best ways for students to grow as readers. These books do not need to be teacher directed. This should be something that students are choosing that is based on their interests. I am, however, going to be encouraging them to read different subgenres and read different types of books so that they're expanding their horizons and showing compliance with the standard. I will read and comprehend a variety of texts and genres. So I do really encourage you to talk about reading with your kids at home. This is a great way for them to become not only better readers, but also better writers. And they will be given class time to do those things. So in trimester 1, we are focused really heavily on 2 chunk paragraphs. We want to make sure that we're reviewing topic sentence, concrete detail, commentary to make sure that we will have that skill under our belts for the rest of the year. We do that with short stories. We focus really specifically on science fiction, which we love doing at the beginning of the year and leading into October, which is kind of spooky and fun. Then we also read a choice book, so they can read either Long Way Down or The House on Mango Street. And during that unit, they focus on narrative writing, so we focus on figurative language and sensory details. We also, during this whole trimester, are really zoomed in on reading comprehension. So not only understanding what we read for plot, but being able to analyze it for things like theme and message. We are also focusing in on discussions during this time, and discussions are most likely going to be stemming from our book choice unit, which is another way that we are really embedding the free reading goal into our time together. Trimester 2 is all about power. So we are focusing once again on those 2 chunk paragraphs. We start off with the hero's journey. So we learn what the hero's journey archetype is, and then we are able to follow it through a dystopian novel. So we pick up some of those elements of sci-fi during trimester 2. After we are done reading our dystopian novels, then we move into a choice unit. Students are choosing a book that is about power, so they can choose from The Fault in Our Stars, Pet, or Animal Farm. And then this also helps support some of those discussion skills because we'll be doing that in small group reading circles. And then we read Mouse, which is our graphic novel for the year. We collaborate very heavily with social studies because Mouse is about World War II and the Holocaust. And we want to make sure that we are providing students with the resources that they need in order to read empathetically and have a full understanding of the text. Trimester 3, we read To Kill a Mockingbird, which is our major classic for the year. We do a big recap of skills to make sure that they are ready for high school. This trimester is all about getting ready for the next step. So in addition to reading To Kill a Mockingbird, we also are focusing on nonfiction texts, getting ready for them for their classes outside of language arts, and also we are reading and writing poetry as well. This is also a time that we really hone in on the skills of presentation, vocabulary, and word choice. Parents often ask me how they can help their students succeed. Biggest thing is referring back to Schoology for rubrics and feedback. It can feel sometimes like we get a grade and we don't understand why we get this, and it can feel really easy to get overwhelmed. So I always recommend that kids go back into Schoology, take a second, take a look at everything again to see where the evidence is coming from. Ask them to communicate with me. That is another thing that we are working on in 8th grade is having more student to teacher communication. They're in class with me every day. They have the opportunity to, and it's much easier to get those questions answered if they are able to just come to me right away. Remind them that I'm on their team. I'm a teacher because I love working with students. It's something that makes me really happy. And I also deeply care about their success and their well-being. So if they are feeling frustrated with anything in class, please just remind them that I care about them deeply and that they should come and talk to me. Also remind them that the learning journey is all about growth and sometimes includes some stumbles along the way. I am an English teacher. I love being an English teacher. That was my major in college. However, there were a lot of things that I did not do well at the first time. So in eighth grade, we're doing a lot of new learning. So it's just important that students understand that growth is really important and that sometimes it's not always a linear learning journey. Keep them reading, encourage them to read. That's a great way for them to become better readers and learners. And also, please, 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 always feel free to reach out to me and let me know if there's something that I need to know to make sure that I am supporting the whole student. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to working with your kids this year.